focus on oil. The OPEC Secretary General Haitham Al Ghais also says that oil is irreplaceable for the foreseeable future. He was speaking at an inaugural Energy Asia conference in Malaysia, and he said that they expect global oil demand to rise to 110 million barrels a day in around 20 years from now. Now, that's saying that the world energy demand will shoot up by roughly 23%. So, listen into that particular piece.
Shifting focus then, let's look at all the important cues that you should be keeping on your radar today in trade. You've got a bunch of annual general meetings happening today with the likes of SBI, Asian Paints, Bank of India and Havells having their AGMs today. On the corporate action front, you've got Hindustan Aeronautics. The board meet will consider stock split today. On the IPO front, you've got Cyan DLM's 740 crore IPO that will open for subscription today. Lock-in period will end for Ellen Electronics that listed on the 30th of December last year, and the lock-in shares were 2.5 crore. And other events to watch out today will be PM Modi will launch 5 Vande Bharat Express trains. Bajaj Triumph, the Triumph model of Bajaj will launch today. And today is also the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises day. So keep an eye out on all these cues today.
Right, and let's quickly move on to what's happening in the global marketplace when it comes to specific companies. Tech giant Meta announced a virtual reality subscription services called MetaQuest Plus at $7.99 per month. The subscription service marks Meta's latest effort to generate recurring revenue from its Reality Labs unit, which is developing virtual reality and augmented reality technologies.
Consulting giant Kpmg will be laying off as much as 5% of US workforce amid economic headwinds and historically low attrition rates. Remember, the firm had cut around 2% of US workforce in February, making it among the first few firms to slash jobs in the country. The latest job cut will take place through the rest of 2023.
Right. Meanwhile, the S&P Global has gone ahead and slashed their China growth forecast amid macro uncertainty and country's recovery trajectory from the pandemic. The S&P now expects China to grow at around 5.2% in 2023 versus the earlier estimate of 5.5%. This is the first time that the firm has cut China's growth forecast this year.
Now, the Japanese government-backed fund has proposed a $6.3 billion acquisition of semiconductor giant JSR while citing the strategic emphasis on critical technology of chips. This deal comes at a time when Japan-based stocks are witnessing a run-up, fresh highs, which have not been seen since the 1990s.
Right, and on to the latest update from Russia. President Vladimir Putin commented on the Wagner group, stating, and I quote him, "This is criminal activity which is aimed at weakening the country. This was a colossal threat," unquote, said Putin in a televised address to the nation. This comes after hundreds of Wagner group mercenaries led by Yevgeny Prigozhin marched on Moscow over the weekend in what appeared to be an armed rebellion against Russia's military leadership. Meanwhile, oil and natural gas prices climbed Monday as markets were largely focused on the turmoil in Moscow, which could have disrupted global commodity supplies. Listen in to what geopolitical experts had to say on this piece.
Changed course because he faced resistance from the Russian army. So there was actually no resistance. There's something else seems to have happened, and this is an abiding mystery. At what point, who intervened, why, how, that he said, okay, I'm stopping and I'm going, I agree to go off to Belarus and we'll stop this situation here.
He thought probably that he has arrived now, and maybe this one theory is that the foreign intelligence and Ukrainians and some others and somebody in the Kremlin, as well as some other oligarchs who were against Putin, have tried to bait him into it. Second, the more plausible theory that is there, and which Putin, being a strategist himself, is that it was to redeploy these forces in Belarus, which is becoming increasingly a front against the NATO and the West, and that to put pressure on entry through Kyiv.
Believe that he would do anything without really thinking of long-term consequences, anything that could actually break the Russian security. So what I think really, I really don't know. Maybe there was a plot, maybe there was not a plot, maybe he got enticed by the CIA, maybe he did not, maybe he wanted to march on. But the fact is that at the end of it, in terms of the overall security scenario, he realizes that he cannot live away from Russia.
All right, and shifting focus from what's happening to Russia to the US then, and Starbucks workers and LGBTQ activists have gathered outside a Starbucks store in New York's Manhattan to protest the removal of pride decorations across multiple stores of the flagship cafes. Protesting workers took part in a nearby pride parade and handed out flyers about the action, slamming the coffee chain for removing those decorations. A company spokesperson, however, shut down those claims, sharing their support for the LGBTQ+ community, even calling those claims false.
Right, and let's quickly move on. S&P Global Ratings has in fact retained India's GDP growth rate for FY24 at 6%. According to S&P's quarterly economic update, India will be the fastest growing economy among the Asia-Pacific nations. The recently released report also shows the fastest growth in India, Vietnam and Philippines at about 6% or thereabouts. The rating agency has also lowered China's forecast, we did speak about this, to 5.2% versus 5.5% for 2023. The S&P expects RBI to cut rates only in early 2024, as the RBI wants consumer inflation moving towards that 4% target.